Hello everyone and welcome to our webinar. Today's topic is Oilfield Service and Rental Invoices. Let me introduce myself. My name is Dasha. I'm Marketing Coordinator and I will be hosting this webinar for you today. You can follow us on social media to keep up to date with the latest company news, events, as well as industry updates. Now you can see our social profiles on the screen, so just push the follow button and stay in touch. Let me introduce you to our speakers today. Today you will learn about invoicing in RigER from Arsen, our software consultant, Indra, our user support lead, and Gleb, a VP of operations. And just a quick overview of what we're going to discuss today during this webinar. We will talk about oilfield job invoicing in RigER. We will show different billable items like services, consumables, rental units, combat units, packages. You'll see how to build oilfield service invoice, oilfield rental invoice, general rentals invoice, invoice generator, billing cycle, and others. Then we'll talk about about what revenue reports can we build, and we'll also share some best practices of oilfield invoices. And before we start, for those who don't know much about us, I would like to make a short introduction. RigER is a flagship product of Belkasoft Corporation, which is a rapidly growing company offering software development and management consulting services for medium-sized oilfield services and equipment rental businesses. What we do is that we help companies become paperless. We also offer custom solutions for any business needs, and we create solutions that can be integrated with almost any popular software used by companies in oilfield. So what is RigER as a product? It is a platform that has cloud application that you can access from a desktop, which is fully supported by the mobile applications. Now we have a suite of mobile applications depending on the functions of your operations in the oil field, from general dispatch to sales and operation and purchases, in order to make you able to do many different operations when you are in the field and connecting to the main cloud database through the internet. RigER also has a number of user-specific or sub-industry-specific applications. They include rental equipment distribution, the downhole tools, the waste management, flowback, telecommunication tools management, and others. Most of our clients are in Canada and US, and the number is growing. And what we wanted to share is great news with you guys. This year, RigER was among finalists as a Consultancy of the Year by Oil and Gas Awards. This is a great achievement of ours. Like the Oil and Gas Awards judge stated, RigER is moving the oil field forward to the digital era, and we will not stop but keep going and improving. Next, I wanted to show you some of the companies that we've been working with and enjoying helping with the operations management. They vary in terms of the size and the type of the equipment and the focus of the operations. And thank you, our clients. So I would like to pass microphone to Gleb, and we will start talking about oilfield job invoicing.
Thank you very much, Dasha. Hello, everyone. My name is Gleb. I'm VP of Operations in RigER. And as Dasha said, I'll be talking about the oilfield job invoicing that you can perform in RigER software. So basically, what RigER software allows you to do is to accommodate different types of the items that can be billable for your clients. And we will cover services, consumables, and parts and rental units today as the items that you can bill to your customers. But also RigER is able to accommodate the combo units and more complex rental units to be billable to the customers and to the oil companies. Let's take a quick look at the general document flow chart of the RigER system. And if you're using the RigER software as well, you probably know this chain of the documents. But for those who don't use RigER yet, I want to tell that we usually start with the rental agreement as the starting point of every single job, and the rental agreement is the main source of the prices for the invoice in the whole document of chain. Then once the rental agreement is approved and the operations department starts doing their job, we generate different tickets. It can be rental tickets, it can be service tickets, both through return and pick up tickets. So the actual movement of the equipment and the actual services that your company provides to your customers are captured within the tickets. So you can have as many tickets per one rental service agreement, meaning one job, as you may have. And your operations and your unit number, asset numbers, and the particular services quantities are tracked within the tickets. Then once everything is completed and all the tickets are signed by the company representative at the site, this information can be provided to the accountant, and the accountant will be able to generate an invoice in RigER system by clicking just a few buttons. So the accountant keeps one of the main role in terms of the invoicing, but it mostly relies on the previous job of all the departments, meaning sales and operations departments. So if sales and field techs have done their jobs properly and put all the information on the rental agreement and all the tickets, the invoice will be correct, and the accountant person should only be able to check the accuracy of all the figures and all the amounts and just submit the invoice to the customer. Now let's talk a little bit about the types of the oilfield jobs that you may have. And we all know that oilfield is pretty complex thing in terms of the billing, because different oil companies provide different requirements to their suppliers and vendors of the equipment and services in terms of billing situations. So we do know that many of the oil companies, they have even at the same time, they have different requirements depending on the approach that they'd like to account their expenses by a particular well or by the whole location or pad. So it really depends on the company, and most of our clients, they face these requirements and they're trying to accomplish everything with its RigER. And we've seen that these accomplishments went well, so they succeed with invoicing their clients pretty well. But basically, we're talking about today about the pretty standard and simple types of invoices, which are oilfield service invoices. We will also be covering the oilfield equipment rentals and general equipment rentals. I will shed a little bit of light a little bit later about these two types. Also, we're going to cover the batch drilling invoices. This is the specific type that is also available at your disposal in RigER. And we'll talk about the billing cycles and multi-well allocations. So the first type of the invoices that I'd like to cover is the simplest one that we may have. This is the oilfield service invoice. The oilfield service invoice will have pretty straightforward items on it, meaning that we just keep track of the services that we provide to the customer with the quantities and prices of these services. And again, RigER allows you to track your prices based on the different unit of measures, saying that, for example, you provide a delivery services and sometimes you charge a customer with a one event of the delivery, but some of the companies, they charge their clients with the kilometers or miles or hours of the services. So everything can be kept in the system, and you are pretty flexible with setting up different kind of unit of measures, even within one database. So the oilfield service invoice, the chain of these documents is pretty simple. So you see that we have just a rental service agreement. Then we have a field tickets or service tickets where we track our services by quantities. The prices flow from the rental service agreement to the invoice directly, and invoice capture prices from RSA, as I said, and service quantities from the service tickets. So this is very simple, straightforward, and we can easily generate an invoice for the services. So that's a screenshot of the service invoice in RigER. So you see that we have just one tab, service and parts, filled in with different services from field tickets, and there is a big number of different field tickets. So the invoice takes automatically everything from the tickets, apply prices from rental service agreements, and we get the total amount with the taxes applied automatically. So oilfield rental job with services can also be generated in RigER. So in the delivery ticket, you can have both rental equipment and services. So again, the system will be able to capture both of these activities and invoices in one document. So let's take a quick look at the real life scenario in the demo database in RigER. Let's take a look at our rental service agreement with equipment, forklift and generator, with the quantities and rental per day prices. And also we have services, delivery and pickup services for each equipment, with also quantities and prices included. And we have 2 delivery tickets. The first delivery ticket is for delivering of the equipment to the client's location, with a quantity and services included, like a delivery with quantity 1. And also we have a delivery ticket return upon the return of the equipment with the services of pick up the equipment. From the rental service agreement, we can generate a service invoice. We click on the service invoice and we choose the date of the invoice, click generate, and a newly generated service invoice will take all the services from the delivery tickets only, with the quantities, prices, and total amount including taxes. All right, so now let's go and take a look at the oilfield rental invoice. This is a little bit more complex because it has an equipment in the invoice. So basically the document flow chart looks like this. So we have again the rental service agreement with prices of the equipment, and we have equipment dispatched through the delivery ticket start, and we have delivery ticket end. So in the very simple scenario, we deliver the equipment at the location, it works for a while, and then we take it back and deliver back to our shop, yard, or warehouse. So, and 2 delivered tickets are essential part in the tracking of the rental charges, because each of these tickets track start date of the job and end date of the job. So it calculates automatically then the difference between start and end date, comes up with a general and with a total days, a number of days, and multiplies it by the prices from the rental service agreement for the equipment, and we get the total amount in the invoice. So again, pretty straightforward situation. And even though you may have different movements of the equipment throughout the job, say in a month you had multiple deliveries, then you've taken back equipment several times, and you have all these movements of the equipment captured with dozens of tickets. And again, Invoice will be able to take all this information, calculate the total amount of days, and get the total amount with taxes. So, and also you'll be able to track services, as I said, and consumables and parts. So if you provide some kind of supplies or consumables, or you do the repair of the equipment and you consume the parts through this repair, everything can be reimbursed and invoiced to the customer. And that's a quick demo of the rental invoice. Now let's take the same rental service agreement and let's assume that the customer has requested the invoice with the rental fee and service charges both included. We have the same delivery tickets with equipment and services provided, and we go to RSA, click rental invoice, generate, and we select the date of the invoice, click generate, and newly generated invoice has both rental fees and service charges from the delivery tickets. And rental charges are calculated based on the dates from the delivery ticket, start and end date, and multiplied by the daily rental fee. So the rental invoice has both, again, rental fees and service fees calculated with taxes included. Good. As long as we are moving forward, I'd like to discuss with you another type of the job that you may have in RigER, which is the general rental invoices. So how general rental invoices differ from the standard rental equipment invoices? In the oil field, you may have a situation when your customer or your company just decides to bill a customer with a kind of flat fee for the rental period. So the rental periods can be different. It can be by weeks or by months or by standard days. So using the general equipment rental tool in the system, you will be able to set different prices depending on the different rental periods. Also, the rental price matrix will allow you to set a particular number of days for which you'd like bill customer with a some kind of a price. For example, if you dispatch the equipment and the customer had this equipment for 5 days, so you charge this customer with a 7 days price. So you provide some kind of discount. Or another example can be in weeks. Say the customer had used your equipment for 17 days and you charged the client as the 3 weeks period. So setting up these kind of different dimensions in the rental periods, the system will analyze how many days the equipment stayed at the location, and it will automatically apply a particular and appropriate price for this period. So in this example of the general rental invoice, we see that equipment stayed at the location for 28 days, and the system applied 4 weeks rental period price. So the rental rate is $23.39 for this period. So this is done automatically by the system. You don't have to select what kind of price you need to apply. You just need to do the setup properly, and the system will do it for you. All right, now we are moving on, and let's discuss the billing cycles. And I'd like to introduce you to Indra. She is our user support lead, and Indra, welcome.
Hello, Gleb. Hello, everyone. My name is Indra, and I'm user support technician in RigER. So let's talk a little bit about billing cycles in RigER system. So in RigER system, you can have a different billing cycles for a rental job, and you can generate separate rental invoices for these billing cycles. Like in this example, you can see that one rental job can be ongoing for multiple billing cycles in the system. Yes, so let's show how it works in RigER system.
The billing cycle feature allows companies to generate invoices for a particular number of days. For each RSA, you can set a billing cycle, or you can set a default billing cycle for every new rental service agreement. In our case, we have 28 days billing cycle. The benefit of having 28 days billing cycle is that in a year period, the company can have 13 billing periods rather than 12 billing periods in a monthly billing cycles. Now let's assume that we have a job and we need to generate the first invoice for the billing cycle starting from April 1st. So I generate a new invoice, rental invoice, and I select the date of the invoice as April 30th. I click generate, and the rental invoice calculates automatically the billing cycle days, and it's 28 days, and I just post invoice. And if I want to generate a next invoice for the next billing cycle, I go to RSA, click on generate, rental invoice, and let's assume that my date will be May 30th. So the new invoice will automatically generate and calculates the next billing cycle dates. It's from April 29 till May 26, so it's total 28 days, and it calculates the total amount with taxes included.
Thank you, Gleb. So now let's move on to the next topic, and let's speak about rental invoice generation tool in RigER. RigER system has a tool to invoice all ongoing rental jobs in the database at one procedure. For example, here you can see a few separate rental jobs with the different start dates and different rental periods. So when everything is set up, you can use invoice generation tool with predefined billing day, for example, last day of every month. Then you can generate invoices for all these rental jobs just with one click. Invoice generation tool will automatically calculate rental periods for a new rental job, or takes the rental period start date from the last invoice date and will generate invoices. So now Gleb will demonstrate how to use this invoice generation tool in RigER system.
To generate multiple invoices at a time, we go to Oilfield Rentals menu, and we open rental invoice generation tool. Now we have to generate a new document, and we select the date of this document first. Say it will be March 31st, and we select the invoice date. Again, it will be March 31st. We can either post invoices that will be generated, or if we uncheck this mark, we just generate invoices. We can check the correctness and accuracy of these invoices and then post them one by one, or we can post them right away after the generation. Now, when we're ready, we click on Generate, and all the invoices for March 31st are generated for all the RSAs that have the open billing period.
Thank you, Gleb. So the main advantage of invoice generation tools is that it can generate invoices for different ongoing rental jobs with different billing cycles. So you don't need to go separately to each rental service agreement and check if it's time to generate an invoice already for the client. This tool can do it for you. For example, in this slide, you can see that we have 5 different rental jobs with different rental periods. So when you run the invoice generation tool on billing day, it calculates next billing periods and analyzes which ongoing rental job can be invoiced today. It generates invoices only for these jobs where billing date past the billing period end date. It means that this tool does not invoice ongoing jobs which are in the middle of billing cycle. As you can see, the tool will invoice the job number 1, 3, and 5, and other jobs will be invoices with the next billing date. So the next option for invoice generation in RigER is batch drilling invoices. Batch drilling invoices allows to generate rental invoices based on well schedule. So like in this slide, you can see that you provide a rental equipment package to drilling rig, and all company or drilling company provides you back a drilling interval or batch drilling schedule with well numbers and start and end dates for each well. So, and it shows us where we need to invoice this particular period of time. So in a receipt document, we have a wells tab, and we can enter all of these batch drilling schedules for particular wells and generate separate invoices based on delivered rental equipment. Batch drilling invoice is a feature that allows to allocate different rental fees and service charges across the wells. And in rental service agreement, we activate batch drilling tool and specify to what wells all the charges should be allocated on specific rental period. And we can enter start date, end date, and generate batch drilling invoices directly from RSA. So it's really powerful and useful tool in RigER to generate batch drilling invoices. So here you can see, yes, the batch drilling document workflow. When you delivering equipment to client's location, and the job is running, and you getting well start and end dates for each well start and end dates from the client. So then you adding the schedules to batch drilling section in rental service agreement, and based on this start and end dates, each well will get generated separate invoice with rental fees and service fees included.
Yes, and I would add here to this slide that actually the gap days can appear once you're using the batch drilling tool, because sometimes when you have dozens of invoices at the end of the month or at the end of the invoicing date, so you probably may miss some days from the batch drilling schedule, or just the company didn't provide you with these all the days that equipment stayed at the location and work for them. So we call these days gap days. And this is the nature process. And unfortunately, we've seen some situations when companies just lose these days, and they just found out that we missed these days, but we have already closed the jobs, and everything is invoiced, so we can invoice the client with these gap days. And the gap days report will actually tell you what kind of days you're missed. So Indra, do you want to add something here?
Yes, thank you, Gleb. Actually, yes, it's the main problem when you use batch drilling invoices, the missed gap days, not invoice days, because the rental period which we calculate between job start and end date can be different from the batch drilling schedule dates, and it's difficult manually to catch these dates. So we have a separate gap days analysis report which can easily check all the data, all the start and dates, invoiced days, and just give you a report with the periods which are not invoiced yet. And we can send this report to the client and ask which wells we should invoice for these gap days or what to do with these dates. So in this next slide, you can see another very useful report. It's missed rental days report. In this report, you can get missed, not invoiced, all rentals days for each rental unit on client's location for particular job. And if you double click on missed column on missed rental days report on the left side screenshot, it will drill down you to the next detailed report for a specific rental unit with the schedule, which days were invoiced already and which are not yet. So it's very informative report to see the details about missed rental days and to catch even the errors in invoicing in system.
Okay, good. And as you may have noticed, we are moving from the simple types of the invoices, and we're just a little bit increasing the complexity of the invoices that can be generated. And one of the most and interesting and sometimes pretty challenging is the multi-well invoicing. So Indra, let's talk about this.
Thank you, Gleb. Yeah, so the next topic I would like to speak with you is invoice generation RigER is Multiwell invoices. Multiwell invoicing allows to generate one invoice with allocated rental fees and service fees for wells in one document. So when the job is proceeded on the location, but different wells and with different wells, and clients needs an invoice where charges would be allocated by wells, we can use Multiwell RSA and later generate Multiwell invoices for that RSA. In multiple job, it's very important to select correct wells in rental tickets when you are delivering and returning equipment to client's location. Because later during multiple invoice generation, system will analyze each of these tickets and all rental fees and service fees based on the ticket wells will be allocated to each wells separately. So here you can see that we have a wells tab. So we adding all the wells where the job will be provided. And in the next slide, you can see an example of multi-well invoice already generated in the RigER system, where in the document, each line is allocated to separate wells based on delivery and return ticket, start and rental period, start and end date, and delivered equipment for in that ticket. So it's more complicated generation of invoices in RigER, but it's more useful and more helpful for clients. So the next and the most complicated and the most useful invoice generation type is master and sub invoices. So it's very similar to multi-well invoices, but it's same approach, but more complicated. And for example, in this case, client is asking you to provide a separate invoice for each well. So for these cases, we built a master invoice with sub-invoices approach for invoice generation procedure in RigER. Based on master invoice, we built sub-invoices for each well. So in this document workflow, you can see that the job starts with the rental service agreement. You are delivering equipment, returning equipment from a location. Then the next step is to set up allocation rules, and based on these rules we are generating a master invoice, and later from master invoice the sub invoices with allocated rentals and service fees in these invoices. So in the next slide, here is a screenshot of the window in RigER where you are setting up an allocations rules. So you can have as many allocation rules as you need. So on the left side, you can see the allocation rules, and in this example, we are allocating by periods. We set up an allocation rule for each period and assign to which wells and by what proportion to allocate the fees to each well. So in the next slide, we can see, yes, if you could move please up to the next slide. So here we can see master invoice and in allocation setup tab, we are setting up all the rules how to allocate the fees. So the pink line on the left side, so in this rule we will be allocating evenly the fees for all 3 wells. And the green side, we can see that we will be allocating only to well 1. So all the rental fees for the period set up in this rule, we will allocate all rental fees and service fees to 1 well. And the last line, the yellow one, all the rental and service fees will be allocated to well number 2. So on the left side, for each this separate rule, we select to which well we will be allocating and assigning the proportion, the percentage of the allocations. And then on the bottom, we can see the rental period. So we will select for each rule separate rental periods, so start and end dates for which we'll be allocating rentals and service fees for separate wells. So after all rules set up, we click generate button and all sub invoices will be generated automatically. For example, here we had 3 allocation rules, so 3 separate sub invoices are generated. And when we generate all sub invoices, we have a separate sub invoice for each well with allocated fees based on these setup rules. And total amount of all these sub invoices is equal to a total amount of master invoice. So this is the most complicated, but it's really useful for clients invoice generation approach in RigER. So these are all different invoice generation approaches in RigER what we have.
Okay, thank you very much, Indra. That was very insightful. And yeah, despite that it may sound a little bit difficult to understand, but we've just developed this feature for some clients that are required to provide some kind of very complex and difficult invoices for their customers, meaning oil companies. So that's why we've just developed this master and sub invoices tool to give the ability to allocate rental and service fees between different wells at the same time. So now we've come to the Q&A session of this presentation. It's not the end of the presentation, so stay with us, and we will cover a little bit more information after the Q&A session. So you are able to provide your questions and to submit your questions through the Q&A section of the Zoom application. So you may find this Q&A button and you can submit the question over there, or just send us these questions in the chat window and we'll be happy to address those. In the meantime, Dasha, I'd like to ask you if we have any questions so far.
Yes, we actually do have a few questions. So the first question is, what is the difference between Multiwell invoice and master invoice?
Yes, so the main, both invoices has wells inside them. So the rental and service fees are allocated to wells. The main difference is that multiple invoice, it's one invoice for all the wells and all the allocations. So it's one document. Master invoice and sub invoices, you are able to generate separate invoice for each well with allocated rental and service fees inside.
Yes, and master and sub invoices also allows you to set the rule in terms of what particular percentage you'd like to allocate to what well. But multi-well invoice just allows you to spread around the cost pretty evenly.
Okay, thank you. The second question is, can the system automatically generate invoices?
Basically, the system doesn't generate invoices automatically. So we do this, we leave this control to the accountants, because accountants are usually, they do want to control the process of invoice generation. So if the system will do it automatically, probably it will be not so visible, and there is not controllable. But we call this semi-automatic process, because as we have shown, you can generate a batch of the invoices with a click of one of a few buttons, actually. So you can generate dozens of invoices clicking one button. But still, if you prefer to generate a customer on a like customer by customer basis, you can generate invoices manually from RSA, or use the invoice generation tool to process multiple invoices.
I see, thanks. And I have one more question. Can we invoice a particular ticket?
Yes, we can. And the system allows you to invoice either a delivery ticket or a service ticket, or a number of tickets for some period of time. So yes, the system is very flexible in terms of invoicing in different ways for different period of times, and even sometimes based on the stage of the job. So some of our clients, they prefer to invoice only particular tickets with a particular status. So yes, this option is available as well.
Okay, thank you. So no more questions as for now.
All right, sounds good. So we can move on, and let's talk a little bit about the revenue reports, but because this is the pretty natural pathway when you do the invoicing in RigER, and then you'd like to analyze what kind of revenue we had for some period of time. So I would like to pass the mic to Arsen. Arsen is our product manager, so he will explain this.
Yes, thank you, Gleb. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As Gleb said, the outcome of all the invoicing is supposed to be the revenue that we are expecting, and it is a good thing to have analytics under your hand to be able to see where you are gaining and where you are losing. So let's go on and see what revenue reports we have in the system. The first one would be the revenue by periods report. This is a very comprehensive report, and it has several variations, and it can be triggered in several period variations also. So on your screen, as of right now, you have you are seeing the variant that allows us to show the revenue allocation by the type of the revenue, then grouped by the groups and the units. So in total, we have the type of the revenue that shows how it's generated. You can also have the variant of engineer, reverse type of revenue, and the units. You can also have it allocated by field technicians and type of the revenue. You can also select the time periods, which could be like year by months, or can be month by days, or can be a year by weeks, etc. So it is a very comprehensive report. It will give you a precise picture of what you are supposed to see based on the choices that you make on the selection. Let's move on to the next report. Fairly simple, but yet a powerful information containing report. This is the revenue by customers, and it will show you precisely how much amount does every customer generate for you for its jobs. So it also will allow you to see the client divisions and alongside with your line of businesses if you have implemented them in the system. Our next report would be the revenue analysis. This report is does also have several types of variations. So you can also select several variations of it. It has right now been configured to show you the revenue analysis by the client based on the location and the item. So this will show you how much precisely each item generates in each location for each client. Moving on to the next report, this is the top 10 report, and it will basically show you information about the top 10 revenue generation mechanisms that we have employed in the system. Those can be the rental units, those can be the consumables, the locations, the engineers, areas, field technicians, etc. This report also has several check marks that will allow you to extend the information of the report, meaning you can also check the show amount checkbox, which will present you with the amounts of each category that we have in the report right now. We can also check the show services report. Let's go back. We can also check the show services checkbox, and it will show us all the services, and analogically we can have the clients also shown on the report. The revenue ABC analysis report. This report will basically allow you to see the major categories of your revenue and see which exactly client or line of business or a salesperson or a field technician generates the amount of revenue according to the group they are in. The A being the most revenue generation, and the C being the least revenue generation groups. Let's move on and talk about the estimated revenue report. The name suggests, and we can see that in this report we have all the information that we need to have when we need to understand how much revenue we are estimating. It's based on the client. It also provides the information about the documents that were used to deploy and the RSAs, and you can see the total amount of the estimated revenue underneath the report. Equipment revenue report will allow you to see how much revenue does each piece of equipment generate based on a certain period of time, a selectable period of time. It will show you the actual unit and the rental unit and the unit number. It will also provide with the information about the ticket and the service that was performed. The price is obviously included, and the number of jobs would be also presented for each rental unit. And again, we will see the total amount of the revenue that each piece of equipment has generated for us. The unbilled revenue report. This is a good report to have and understand how much unbilled revenue we have as of right now. It has a lot of filters in it. It can be configured to show the gap days. It can be configured to show the missed days of the rental periods. It can include rental break notes, and it can include or not include the gap days themselves. The report will show you the unbilled revenue divided by the clients, divisions, locations, etc. And again, we will have the grand total amount of the unbilled revenue that we are supposed to bill to our clients.
All right, thank you very much, Arsen. That was really great because the reports module in RigER is pretty comprehensive, so it covers almost all the parts of your operation activities and accounting, and sometimes even HR purposes. So please, if you use RigER, go into this module and explore different kind of reports. If you need some kind of customization or some changes on the reports, or you have something specific in your case, so we can customize the report for you specifically, or just develop a new one that will be helpful and useful for all the clients. All right, so now let's move on and talk about a little bit about the best practices that we've seen in our implementation projects based on our more than 50 projects implemented during the past years, a few past years. So, and the first real life scenario that I'd like to share with you that I've just seen on my one of my implementation project was so I just took 2 invoices when we were talking with a client how we'd like to see those invoices in RigER, and I just did a simple check on the figures on that invoices, and I found out that on one invoice the accountant just calculated the days, rental days, not correctly. So it was just manual error in the calculation, and it led to the rental fee understated on the invoice. So it meant that the company lost some amount of money on just a simple error in the calculation of the rental days. The second invoice that I took, I saw that there was a calculation error of the rental fees, again, based on the different period of times that equipment stayed at the location, and there were multiple movements of the equipment, and the invoice was understated on $1,000. It was almost 10% out of the total amount of the invoice. So with these 2 simple cases, we saw that this manual generation of the invoices, either it can be done in Excel, or sometimes companies use QuickBooks system or Sage application to invoice their customers, and those systems does some kind of calculation for the user. But again, since it allows you to do pretty much everything manually, you may appear and you may get to some problems with correct calculation, and also it takes a lot of time to calculate manually all the fees and services. So RigER system does this for you automatically, and this significantly reduces the risk of understatements on the invoices. So one of the main recommendations that we can give based on our experience is to use the system in the way that is designed. It means that you need to follow the certain procedure in order to have the invoices generated properly and calculated correctly. So we usually suggest to put the prices correctly on the rental service agreement, because again, as I've said previously, it's the main source of the prices for the job and for the invoice. So invoices are taking prices from the rental service agreements. Now, all your movements and rental days and services provided with quantities of its services are tracked with the delivery tickets. So once the sales department and sales guys and field technicians have completed their job correctly, meaning filled out the rental service agreement and delivery tickets correctly, and with the proper timing, with the proper days, then the job of the accountant is pretty simple. It's just to generate invoice and check all the details, send the print form of the invoice to the customer, and collect money. So again, the recommendation is to take and put much attention to each part of this puzzle, and just to do the things properly. Now, you may have a question that how we can avoid the duplication of the enterings of information in different system. And for this purpose, we have built the integration of RigER application with accounting packages. The biggest ones are QuickBooks, both desktop and online applications, Sage system, and this year we have built an integration with Microsoft Dynamics 365, or sometimes people call it Business Central. So you can exchange the information between those two systems, but usually how accountants use this integration, they generate invoices in RigER system because it has all the information required for the invoices, and they just send invoices from RigER to their accounting system with a click of one button, and all the information flows seamlessly to the accounting software. In case of the QuickBooks Online version of the application, we can exchange information in two ways. So we can extract and get the information from the QuickBooks system, or we can send it to the accounting system from RigER. Now, we are also able to send invoices to the electronic billing systems like Open Invoice and Cortex. Again, RigER allows you to select a particular invoices for a certain period of time and send these invoices to the e-billing systems pretty seamlessly with a click of a submit button. So you will see your invoices in a few seconds in these electronic billing systems. So this is very helpful and saves just lots of time for the accountants, not to do manual work, but just to transfer information and check all the details, and you are ready to go with the collecting of your revenue. All right, so that is pretty much everything. If you have any questions left, you are very welcome to submit it to us right now, and we'll be happy to answer them.
Yes, I can see questions are coming. The first one is, can invoice be adjusted if there is an error in it?
Basically, yes, definitely you can adjust the invoice by deleting some kind of services from it, or changing the dates on the invoice for the rental equipment. But we strongly recommend to adjust the tickets first and the rental service agreement first before you start changing the invoice. Because as I already said, all the information appears on the invoice based on the information in tickets and rental service agreement. So again, the strong recommendation is to take a look at the tickets, adjust the information on the tickets, and then regenerate invoice so it captures everything correctly and you don't need to do any manual entering in the invoice.
Thank you, Gleb. And next question is, do we need to send invoices to clients from RigER or QuickBooks?
Both options are available. You can do wherever fits your needs more. So, but again, we usually would recommend to send invoices from RigER because invoicing RigER can have much more information on it rather than QuickBooks system, because all the operation details are stored in the RigER application. So we can also customize a print form of the invoice that you send to your customers and give you an ability to send this invoice pretty easily. Just click off one button in RigER email, and all the information about the recipient, meaning his email and name, will appear on your email client application. So, and the attached copy of the electronic invoice, the copy of electronic invoice will be attached to this email, so you just send it to your customer. You don't need to do any, double enterings in the QuickBooks in order to send it to your customers. So this option is available to you from RigER as well.
Okay, thank you. There is no more questions for now, but anyway, if you have any questions after the webinar, you can contact us by email or by phone or by filling any form on our site. Just write us any questions you may arise, and you will get the copy of the recording also tomorrow of this webinar, and you can check it once again. And I would like to mention that RigER team is today in Oklahoma, exhibiting at Oklahoma Oil and Gas Expo, meeting old clients, making new clients, and what is most exciting, they are presenting the new version of RigER. It's RigER 7.0 Oklahoma City.
Yes, that's actually great news, and I'm happy to share it with you because you're the first who knows this. And next week on October 17th, the same time, we'll be sharing the presentation about our RigER 7.0 Oklahoma City version. So there will be lots of lots of new features, new reports, and new capabilities of the system presented. So please join this webinar. We will be happy to share this information with you. And after that, we will be starting to deploy the new version to our clients. So you can be amongst the first clients that will get this new version, and we'll be doing a separate training on the new version. So please welcome and join us next week at 1 p.m. Central Time or 12 p.m. Mountain Time. All right, on that note, I would like to thank you all for being here with us today, and thank you for your questions. Still, if you have any other questions or you'd like to get some kind of specific consultation or just an advice, please give us a shout. You can reach us at the on our website. You can call us and you can send us email. So we are pretty responsive and we'll be happy to assist with your operations in RigER. Thank you. See you next week. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.